That was awesome. I think I'm most proud of the minister accolades. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are we feeling? Hopefully I am the last person that separates you and a drink. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm ready to tear the walls down. You guys ready? Okay, so we're going to start. Rise of the DEO. Can we show the first slide? Okay, so yes, I'm a minister of the Universal Life Church, but I really started my entrepreneurial life at a very young age. When I was about 13, 14, my mother she ran a cooking school in the basement of my house in Staten Island. And I would have these paintings on the wall. And one of her students said, "Oh, your daughter is so talented," 13 years old. "Can she paint portraits?" And my mother's like, "I guess so." And she goes, "Well, I want you to paint a portrait of my dog." So at a very early age, I became very successful as a dog portrait painter. I charged about $25 a painting. And then when I went to high school, I moved on to painting jean jackets for a whopping $100 a piece. I was very good at pricing myself high at the time. And not only did I charge $100 a piece, I would do these paintings on jean jackets while I was babysitting, essentially doubling my hourly rate. I was a very smart businesswoman. So fast forward, it's kind of interesting, my career. I went to Cooper Union, I went in as a fine artist, I came out as a painter, and then I started my early career working with my very cute colleague, Nathan Shedroff. I don't know if he's still here. We were information designers and cartographers working for Richard Saul Wurman. And I worked for him for about 3 years and left to see the world because I was young and able to do that. And came back and basically was like, what am I going to do? So I started freelancing. And I just kept getting busier. So what do you do when you freelance and you get busy? You hire your friends, right? So I started hiring people to help me. And next thing you know, I accidentally founded a company. Pretty much that's how it usually works. And I founded Hot Studio. I freelanced and I had a company before this, but Hot Studio was the company that I'm pretty much most known for. I founded that in 1997. And the company grew from one person to over 100 people over a 15-year period. And really, it was amazing run. And it was also based in San Francisco and New York City. And the interesting thing about that, about growing a company, about like being the dog portrait painter, about doing the jean jacket, I never went to business school. Never went to business school. Thought I was going to be a painter, came out as a graphic designer, built my career as a designer. But I had a superpower. It was called design. So I used my design skills to grow the business and in essence, whenever I had to make a business decision, I would treat it as if it was a design problem. And so when you use these design superpowers, you can grow a very successful business. So I built this business over a 15-year period, and then one of my clients was Facebook at the time. Does anyone ever know this image? I'm just polling the old people in the room. Yes. So how many of you have ever gone through an acquisition? Some of you. How fun? Not so bad for you? How many people were like stabbed in the heart a couple of times and bled to death? A couple of people. All right. Yeah. So Facebook was a client of mine, and they approached me and wanted to acquire the people of Hot Studio. And if anybody has gone through an acquisition, it kind of feels like this. I mean, at face value, it's like, yay, you're getting acquired. But it's actually quite a painful exercise and very risky. So when you think about it, I had this successful business. I was sort of master of my queendom. Why would I want to give that power up of being independent? And as my son would tell me, being the boss of all these people. Why should I suddenly change careers and work at a place where literally most of the employees, including the CEO, were half my age? Plus, judging from past experiences, most design acquisitions tend to end quite badly. So why would I want to take that kind of chance after building a company for 15 years? But if I was afraid, and I was afraid, but if I was afraid of the uncertainty and risk and giving up this successful company, which essentially was my life work, I would have respectfully declined the offer. But I didn't. We took the plunge. We trusted our intuition. The numbers worked, but this could have been company suicide and be a huge disaster if the cultures and values didn't mix. We took a huge risk because all of this had to be done in complete secrecy. My employees did not know they were being acquired until the morning that I announced it. And finally, we disrupted the status quo because suddenly interaction design studios were in huge demand and became highly valued in the marketplace. So in 2013, we drove off that cliff. We sold the company, and I joined Facebook as a director of product design with many of my former employees. And now, 2 years later, I'm here at Autodesk, embarking on moving the company from thinking about products to thinking about experiences as the VP of Experience Design. And no, I will not fuck up Sketchbook Pro. So I promise you. I will promise you I won't do that. So what is this? These are the actions of what I call a DEO, a Design Executive Officer. A Design Executive Officer is a creative business leader. They are distinctly different from traditional business leaders, and they're uniquely qualified to solve the kinds of globally connected problems that we're facing today. So before I go any further, we got to warm this room up a little bit. It's first of all, how about that music? I'm really digging the music, right? So, we got to warm up. We got to warm up this crowd. I see the door is Joe. Joe, you're going to keep the door locked, okay? You could come in, but you have to keep the door locked. Nobody's leaving. Who here defines themselves as creative? Hopefully, you all do. Who here defines themselves as a leader? Some of you do. Okay, the big question. Think carefully. Who here is a risk taker? You're like, oh no. Okay, when we are asked to do something uncomfortable, something unfamiliar, the rational part of our brain gets pushed aside and the intuitive part of our brain kicks in. Therefore, risk causes the mind to stretch its muscles. It creates mandatory conditions for innovation, and it trains the brain to think in unusual ways, to be more creative. So, I'm asking you all to take a risk with me. It's actually a requirement. So, everyone stand up and listen to my instructions clearly. And nobody is leaving the room. Joe, you locked the door.
Legally, I can't lock the door.
Oh, please, that code of conduct. Just stand in front of it. Okay, so everybody's listen to my instruction. I need a volunteer from me. Who wants to volunteer? This woman here.
Oh, I do?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You do want to volunteer.
All right.
What's your name?
Liz?
Come on up, Liz. Okay. So, Now, I don't know if you're sitting next to somebody that you know, but I want you to actually move to somebody you don't know, and don't cheat. Okay, so like just face somebody that you don't know. Just not. I didn't say to talk. You're not listening. Okay, ready? Did you find a partner? Okay, so we only have 45 minutes, so we're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. When I tell you to stop, you got to stop because this is contagious. So I'm going to ask you to just say hello, and then when I say go, you're going to hug the shit out of that person for 10 seconds, and I'm going to count. Liz is going to count, actually.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? So say hello, and then when I say go, you're going to hug. Oh, we got huggers already. Okay, go! Liz, count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, stop. Sit down. Thank you, Liz. Sit down. Sit down. Okay. The introverts in the room went, oh. Okay, so how did that feel? What was the feeling, and be honest? Awkward? What else? What was it? Confusing? Maybe you didn't choose well. Anybody over here? What did you feel?
Fun.
Fun? Okay. Well, good, because it's a little bit of data. When you hug somebody 4 times a day, that someone you care about, it can actually prevent depression. When you hug somebody 8 times a day, it's a lot, but you can maintain yourself at a strong emotional level. And, well, 12 hugs a day, you need to get a room. So, congratulations. You just took the first step as a DEO. Because the success of all businesses lie in people and how we can make powerful, meaningful connections to one another. It doesn't matter how many awards we've won, what our fucking job title says, and how many years we've been working in business. We are all peers. And when people feel like they're treated like equals, that is when great things can happen. And being an equal starts with you feeling like you're one in your company. So, if you have to remember one thing these 3 days, focus on being present. Look and interact with people, look at them right in their eyes and listen to them. And trust your coworkers' abilities. And meet people right where they are in life. So a DEO, the Design Executive Officer, is a combination of a strategic business leader and a creative problem solver. The DEO looks at all business problems as design problems, solvable through the right mix of imagination and metrics. They don't follow traditional rules because they thrive in a world of ambiguity and chaos, because they are catalysts for transformation and agents of change. Now, the DEO is not necessarily a trained designer. They come from all disciplines and industries. They are business leaders and social innovators. They are government leaders and artists. But they all possess a common characteristic, that they seem to live and work in this state of analytics, anthropology, and creativity. And businesses have flourished in which design leaders are operating at the CEO or DEO level. According to the Designers Fund, designer founders have had successful business acquisitions in the billions of dollars. Most recently, Lynda.com was acquired by LinkedIn for $1.5 billion. And just last week, Resource Amirati, an interactive ad agency based in Ohio, was acquired by IBM for an undisclosed amount of money. That is one happy design leader. So before we had the designer boom, we had this guy, our patron saint, our fearless leader. Steve Jobs, he turned the world upside down in our lifetime. How many of you remember what life was like without that little computer in your pocket? He is a perfect combination of someone who was deeply analytical by nature, but trusted his creative instincts to make some of the most important business decisions our generation has ever seen. And now we have a modern day Steve Jobs. I think Elon Musk is now our modern day Steve Jobs. Do you agree? Yeah. Guys, you're welcome. So, I mean, this is a guy that is, in reinventing cars, the car industry, the transportation industry. He's putting rockets that launch back in space and back. He's the quintessential DEO, and he possesses characteristics that other DEOs have. And these characteristics are being a change agent. DEOs love to and thrive in a world of chaos and transformation. They love and thrive in disrupting the status quo by constantly thinking outside the box. I always say, really, when creativity is you define the problem, and then we define the real problem, versus the fear of ever leaving the box, mitigating risk. They are risk takers. They run to risk. They embrace it versus avoiding, mitigating, or just avoiding it. They are systems thinkers. We are systems thinkers. We connect dots by seeing patterns and thinking in systems. They have the ability to solve complex interconnected problems versus traditional leaders that love to solve problems very linearly, checking things off the list. They are socially intelligent and deeply people-centered. They have deep empathy by focusing on creating relevant and meaningful experiences to improve people's lives versus simply being motivated by money, by maximizing shareholder value, and moving metrics. And they are intuitive. They are deeply intuitive. They are driven by curiosity, imagination, and intuition. And they are deeply passionate about the work, and they are committed to an incredibly high degree of excellence and craft. And the last characteristic they have is this. What is this? Who said that? What's your name? Roxanne. Getting shit done. You get a book. Come on up. Come on up. You win a book. So they know how to get shit done. They have an urgency. They have a sense of urgency and a focus to get it done right, and get it done better than anybody else. It is in their DNA, and it's the type of, and these are the qualities that we need today in our leaders. So those are the qualities that DEOs have. And today I've put together about 5 tips that you can put to use right away. And for somebody like me, I've worked in a small company, I've worked in a big company, I've worked in an agency, I've worked as a middle manager, I've worked as a leader. I've kind of covered the base of my career. I believe strongly that it doesn't matter where you sit in the job chain, you can be a rising leader and put these in action in your own context. So the very first one, are you ready for the 5? Yes? All right. Very first one, change your mindset about design and designers. So the very first thing we need to do is change our mindset. From design being thought of as an expense on a balance sheet, which is where it was, to an investment in the future. Design is not a noun. Design is an active verb. And it's really about all these things. Co-create, participate, facilitate, listen, communicate, instigate, partner, negotiate, innovate. To design is to embrace change. And change demands leadership. Therefore, I'm being analytical here, today's leaders must be designers for change. Designers, we're not just producers of nouns. We're not producers of wireframes, of comps, of prototypes, just that. We are champions to transform a messy, interconnected world. This is our opportunity. This requires a change in mindset. And it starts with you. The best ideas and solutions come from multidisciplinary teams where everyone feels like they've contributed to the creative process. In this context, we are all designers. Make everyone part of the creative process. Designers, we must give up the word and own the word design, keeping it all to ourselves. We have to treat our peers and coworkers as co-creators and respect the fact that each person can bring something to the table based on their own expertise and view of the world. And I like to say, more brains produce more ideas and better solutions. Number 2, value we, not me. This is actually a picture of students from one of my favorite DEOs, Emily Pilliton. She left her career as an industrial designer to go work in schools, to teach middle school students how to design and build and become design leaders in their environment. We're no longer in this culture of me. I grew up in the 80s. I'm very much aware of the culture of me, which was that follow the rock star. Go work for the person in the corner. The rock star and then the minions. We're no longer in that world. We're no longer in the world where there's that rock star that you have to report to and where that person will take credit for everything you do. Instead, we live in the culture of we, where nothing can be done without collaboration, cooperation, and teamwork. And one way to embrace the power of we is to celebrate diversity. That can mean a couple of things. That can mean diversity of work and life experiences. That can mean diversity of discipline and area of focus. That can mean diversity of gender and ethnicity. And how about diversity of point of view? So there are lots of studies out there that support the concept that diverse teams are more efficient and more innovative and more creative than non-diverse teams. There was a study in 2005 by Stanford that asked the question, which I love, what determines the success of a Broadway musical? My husband hates musicals, so he's always asking that question. And what the study showed was really fascinating. First, successful Broadway musicals, they do two things. They hire a balanced ratio of rookie performers to experienced performers. And they do that because the experienced performers, I mean, you know, they know how to deliver cats, right? They know how to, deliver the show and pay attention to the past and have the wisdom to understand sort of the soul of the show. And then the new performers are brand new and they come with the fresh ideas. So when you put these two groups together, they learn from each other and influence each other to get a better outcome, much like jazz musicians improvising together. And this is a picture of Obama's stealth startup, where about 3 or 4 years ago, he mined a lot of the young talent in the tech industry, brought them to Washington, and embedded them in agencies where people were working there 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And the synergy between the young people from tech coming in and working in collaboration with these lifetime agency people has been magical. And we are going to see some pretty amazing things coming out of the White House, hopefully before Obama leaves office. Number 3, put people first. So I work for this guy, Carl Bass, and I want to tell you a Carl Bass story and why I work for him. I have 2 kids. I have a 15-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. And when my son was in 4th grade in Oakland in a public school, he got the opportunity to take an after-school class. The after-school class was how to create cars and monsters using Autodesk Maya. And I remember visiting him after school and sitting and looking at these young kids. They were 8, 9, 10 years old, learning a really complicated piece of software. But the thing that was so fascinating was watching their face light up, because I got to see something really magical. I got to see these young kids discover their passion in life. And I thought that was such a gift. And I'm like, who's donating this really expensive software? Well, turns out that Autodesk gives away its software to schools for free. And I was just like, this is an awesome guy, and an example of somebody who puts people first. He could easily be selling that software to schools and stars, but he gives it away for free because he knows that he's in it for the mission. He's in it to create creative products for creative people. He also knows that the relationship between our customers and his employees are interconnected. Used to be in traditional businesses, you have the wall between the customers and what goes on inside the company. Doesn't happen anymore. You can't. There's no big wall there anymore. So happy employees translate to happy customers, and happy customers translate to high-performing, sustainable businesses. So this whole connection between your customers and your employees, this is sort of the magic sauce when we're talking about being people-centered. By living in people's shoes, your employees, your customers, your peer, and your community, you can look for innovation in the white spaces that don't exist in conference rooms with two-way mirrors. As a DEO, you have to have deep, deep empathy and care deeply and love people. And through your own work, you can really help improve people's lives. So parents are really dialed into this fact that kids model behavior, but so do your coworkers. So it's really important to come to work with a positive attitude every single day. Everyone wants to do a great job. It's usually the middle managers and the leaders that get in the way. Be aware of those controls that are barriers to effectiveness and creativity. Bad bosses can increase the stroke. You could tell this to your boss when you're mad at him. People don't leave jobs, they leave their bosses. And bad bosses could increase the risk of stroke by 33%. But on a positive note, 9 out of 10 people say they're much more productive when they're around positive people. And increasing positive emotions could lengthen your lifespan by 10 years. Number 4, champion creative culture and have fun. Can anybody guess how many hours we work in our lifetime? All right, the analytical people doing the math. Can anybody throw out a number? Like, how many hours do you work in your lifetime? What do you think, Victor? Thousands? Millions? 80,000? 80,000? You're the smart one in the room. You're the smart one in the room. Yeah, she's looking up in the back, right? Yeah, the average person spends 90,000 hours in your lifetime. 90,000 hours you're at work. Wouldn't you want to do that and have fun at the same time? So enjoy coming to work every day. Recent research on companies points to one common denominator, that creating the right culture is the key to success. And it can start with you right at your desk. So create an environment that encourages and rewards creativity in others. Creativity and innovation, it needs to be baked into the culture, not only from the top down, but the bottom up. And remember, we are all born creative. It only gets beaten out of us around the 4th grade. Some survived. And in order to get best ideas out of teams, don't forget to make it fun to come to work every day. Studies show humor, and now my favorite, sarcasm, can increase productivity and creativity as well as promote physical and emotional health. And if employees are happy at work, they work much harder and more effectively. And this data has actually led to new roles in companies, which I aspire to be one day, which they call them happiness managers. Take a look out for that. New job description. Share a meal together. This is where the Italian takes over in me. The thing about Italians is you fight, you fight, you fight. You eat, everything's okay. That's pretty much the gist of it. So whenever I was when I was running Hot Studio and people would come up and go, I'm really having trouble with this person. I'm like, here's $50. Go take them out to lunch. Work it out. So co-workers actually tend to let their guard down when they're eating. It's a true fact. And lunchtime marks a natural pause in the day and a great opportunity for conversation and creativity. And here's some data to support this. Employees who take a break every 90 minutes report a 30% higher level of focus than those who take no breaks during the day. They also report a 50% greater capacity to think creatively and a 46% higher level of health and well-being. And I love to say this since I'm formerly from Facebook. Startups and tech companies take notice. The more hours people work past 40 and the more continuously they work, the worse they feel and the less engaged they ultimately become. So, by contrast, taking breaks increases by nearly 100% people's likelihood to stay in any given company, and it doubles their sense of health and well-being. So prioritize eating together with your team. You are bound to learn something about them and yourself. And another bit of good news. Studies show that alcohol in moderation can enhance creativity. You're welcome. But, all joking aside, it's really important to celebrate big wins or little wins or just celebrating the ends of the week or any other possible excuse you can come up with. So, number 5, iterate and evolve. So, Facebook is a place that celebrates moving fast and being bold. And there are posters taped all over the walls. Really great posters. But this one is my favorite. This journey is 1% finished. In order to build an innovative culture, you have to keep the company in a constant state of iteration and reinvention. Show progress, don't give up, move forward, especially when it's hard to do so. And we all heard this. Fail repeatedly until you find something that sticks. And this is hard. This one's hard. It's learn not to take failure so personally. I'm still working on that. Muhammad Ali once said, if we didn't experience a loss, we would never know what we're capable of. And this is another important thing. From somebody who ran a company for 15 years and had survived 3 or 4 downturns, it's super important to embrace those low points. They suck, but based on personal experience, I hit my low points so many times. And I don't know how many of you could really relate to this. You hit your low point, and you're there, and then something turns, right? Who said that? You've hit some low points? We'll do shots later. Want to hear? you hit that low point, right? And then suddenly something happens. There's this light. Something turns around. You get this like incredible moment of clarity. And then you kind of recharge. And researchers have found that trauma can actually, I don't recommend this for anybody, but just in case you're depressed, you can think about this. Researchers have found that trauma can increase, can increase creativity. Can make you highly creative because when you hit that low point, that's when you start seeing possibilities in life. So I want to say that in addition to iterating and evolve, it's really important to make sure that you build resilience because that's what will make you successful. And DEOs like Mark Zuckerberg understand that vision without execution is hallucination. He didn't say that, Thomas Edison did. But they ultimately know that they will be judged by what they produce, not what they dream. So remember this, ideas are only good if you could bring them to life. So have the courage to take those smart risks, move the needle, show progress, and get shit done. Find that balance between iteration and deliberation, between data that informs your decision and pure gut intuition. Remember, innovation has no chance of success until it leaves the building. So, here we have it. In order to solve the world's problems, we need to think like designers, feel like designers, and work like designers. And here is the great news. There is a designer in every one of us. So open your eyes wide, be courageous, and touch people's hearts and minds. Help us work together as a team, this party of equals, to solve the world's most complex problems. Help us build a better future for our children. We can do this as designers, as creative leaders, as DEOs. Finally, be your authentic you. This is what I looked like when I graduated college. Don't be afraid to show who you really are. Have the courage to think differently and have the confidence to be different. And cause a little trouble because it's good for you. So if this girl from Staten Island with the funny accent who grew up in the 80s in an all-man's design world can do it, you can do it too. So begin right now. You be the champion or find an advocate. These skills can be learned over time, but you can do it and start right now. Just be committed to change. So, to close, bring out your inner DEO to help build the next generation of creative leaders. And to end, I'd like to quote the great DEO Lady Gaga. You are all born superstars. Go and find your own stage. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for hanging in there. All right. Any questions?
Thanks for a great talk. I definitely do something right. I have a lot of beer in my office currently, so. But there is actually.
I have a bar in my office.
Yeah, I'm not that,
But you can work up to that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm planning to. Yeah.
Yes, good.
But there is actually another question. One thing I didn't get, you had Steve Jobs as an example of this.
Yes.
DEO, and then you were talking about this, social skills and people
Yes.
first and
Yes.
so on. And it's not actually. He's rather known as an asshole.
As an asshole, yeah.
That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Why still is he a good example for the DEO?
That's a really excellent question, and we kind of deliberated that a lot. When you think about a DEO, like any human being, there's going to be a spectrum, right? So you're not going to be. Some people are going to skew more analytical with a little bit of creative. Some people are, he's definitely not on the positivity front, but he was very much mission-driven and people-centered, at least customer-centered. And when I talk to people who worked for him, a lot of people work for him that I know. And yeah, he was brutal, but also honest, and people loved working with him because his standards. So I put him in the DEO category, but know that he, and also there's this misnomer that he didn't care about research or metrics, but he did. He used research in ways that he's not counting. So I put him in that category, but because of all the other things that he's done. But it's debatable. I also heard the same thing about Elon Musk, too.
Hi, I have a question about how you see the DEO. Do you see them sitting in the C-level suite with the CEO, or do you see it almost as a replacement of the CEO? Can you talk about that relationship?
Yeah, and DEO is not really. Actually, it was adopted by. There's this site called Wordnik. So DEO has actually been adopted as a term that I completely made up, but I use it as a point because people say, "What about CMO and CCO and all these things?" When I talk about DEO, I think that the mindset of a DEO can exist. If you're an intern, you can inhabit these qualities. So, in a lot of ways, it's a mindset, but also more and more design leaders are sitting at the C level. And so, one of the things, I grew up. I've been in the industry for a really long time too, and I frankly am really tired of we designers don't get any respect in this world, because it's sort of like fucking step up. And a lot of it comes from us feeling like we're subservient. We have to kind of step up and show up. And more and more companies are really seeing Ed, I forgot your name. I forgot your name. The last speaker? Eric. There was E. Kind of talked about how there's this that design is starting to become in business is becoming more Businesses are no more about design. They may not know what they're asking for, but they've realized that it's not technology anymore. It used to be we celebrated what worked when something got turned on, but now in a very crowded world where people have multiple choices, the differentiation is experience. And people, particularly younger people, demand that their technology is intuitive and that it works well and it feels well, and all the things that we've been fighting for all these years. We have a whole generation of people who grew up requiring that experience, and companies have taken notice, which is why so many design studios like Hot Studio have been acquired, because it's like, where are all designers? Oh my God, I need to hire like 40. Let me acquire a design company and get it in. So more and more designers are operating at the C-level, VP level, and being much more part of the strategic conversation about experience than just shipping wireframes.
All right. Well, I think we are at the end of our time, so let's thank Maria one more time for being with us.
Thank you.